Boko Haram is like a fish bone in our throat. We're finding it difficult to deal with this insurgency. What do you think the government is not doing rightly in terms of dealing with this Boko Haram issue that you think that your party would do differently?
Yeah, I think the first problem with the Boko Haram insurgency and the way the government has been dealing with it is that the government chose to politicize it, unfortunately. I think it's a very sad thing indeed that the government decided that they would look for people and say that this is the person or these are the persons responsible for sponsoring the Boko Haram or for supporting the Boko Haram. I mean, how does any government decide that it is the APC that is sponsoring Boko Haram? Unfortunately, I think the president allowed a great number of people to politicize it because they had an eye on the 2015 elections. And I think it's a completely absurd suggestion anyway, to suggest that anyone within the APC would be sponsoring the Boko Haram. And two reasons why that doesn't even make sense. The first is that if you are looking for the stronghold of one of the major strongholds of the CPC, which is a major partner in the APC, it's the Northwest, the Northeast is the North. Why would anybody make life difficult for his own people as a manner of proving, what is the point they've been making, as a manner of proving something to somebody else? That just doesn't make any sense. So I think that's the first problem. When you fail to identify the enemy properly, when you politicize a major tragedy, when you politicize it in the way that this is being politicized, then there's a problem. Look at Syria with ISIL. Look at the Taliban in Pakistan. If the Pakistani government were blaming the opposition for the Taliban, then there will be a problem, obviously, because they will be looking in the wrong direction and the society will not be galvanized to solve the problem. And that's really the first problem. I think that politicization was very, very sad. And I think it's a tragedy that happened because it has led to, until General Buhari was physically attacked, until he was almost killed, before some began to say, well, obviously, this must just have been a mischaracterization of the man. I think it's terrible indeed that government would have done that. So that's the first thing, not properly identifying the enemy and then politicizing the whole issue. The second point is adequate equipment for the forces. It is very clear that Nigeria has one of the most disciplined armies in the world, one of the best trained armies in the world. I worked in Somalia as a justice sector expert with the UNISOM, that's the United Nations mission in Somalia. I worked there with Nigerian troops. I worked with troops of other countries. The military police person who was responsible for the entire operation was a Nigerian, Pat Akem, he's now a brigadier, was a Nigerian. Everybody trusted the Nigerian troops, everybody did. The person who was representative of the Secretary General in that mission insisted always that Nigerian troops must be the ones who go out with him whenever he went out to Mogadishu. So Nigerian troops are possibly the best trained in the world, but somebody has to equip them. Somebody has to equip them well. If you've been following...
Have you done your own investigation to find out these troops are not properly equipped?
No, I'm coming to that. If you follow some of what has been going on in the so-called mutinies of the troops and the complaints that many of them have made. Recently, some were sentenced to 2 years imprisonment for cowardice, and they said we didn't have bullets, we didn't have rounds of ammunition. Some of the major complaints that people have been making. At some point, women were rioting, wives of soldiers were rioting, and saying that, look, we don't want our men exposed to danger in this way and all of that. There is that complaint. The government itself has said, well, we have a problem with buying arms. They've given some reasons and some excuses and all of that. But for me, I think one of the major problems is that you cannot send troops into harm's way without adequately equipping them. I think that adequate equipment is such an important issue.
So do you think the troops have rights then to mutiny?
No. You see, the point is this. If there is something wrong, there may also be a wrong way of approaching it. I mean, obviously, even if the troops feel that, look, something is wrong here, perhaps a mutiny isn't the right approach to that. Perhaps that's not correct. Perhaps that's not the right way to do it. So you may have a justifiable cause, but then you may approach it wrongly. And when it is wrong, obviously there may be consequence for that. But I think it's important. I think it's important to bear in mind that these are troops who ordinarily are some of the best in the world. They are, and I don't think that anyone should diminish the contribution of the Nigerian troops or the Nigerian army to the state of well-being and to the state of this nation. I think they're some of the best troops in the world. As I said, I have worked very closely with them, and I know that they're some of the best in the world. Look at peacekeeping all over the world. Everybody wants Nigerian troops all over the world. Why? It's because they're very highly competent people. But in peacekeeping missions, they are very well equipped. Very well equipped. People must, you see, part of the problem that we have, that governments have generally, and it's not just President Jonathan's government, but a lot of the governments in the past few years, is taking care of the people. Taking care of the people. If you look, I'd gone to see one or two people from my church at the Yaba military hospital at some point, people who are coming back from some of the missions abroad. The state of the place is terrible. The people are not well taken care of. The army in any part of the world, your army must be some of the best cared for people in the community.
Other than caring for the army, do you also think the government should be doing more than it's doing in terms of dialoguing with Boko Haram?
Well, I think that part of the issues is this, and one of the key critical issues is that, of course, there must be an engagement with Boko Haram. There must be an engagement, but sometimes you have a problem with engagement, especially where you have persons who are extremists in every form.
And they're not willing to engage.
And they may not be willing to engage. And, but at some point in time, I mean, extremist groups all over the world it must be clear to them that there is adequate power to put them down. It must be clear to them. If it's not clear to them, if it appears, as it appears, sometimes, that they can overrun villages, overrun towns and all of that, then it'll be harder and harder to even engage them because they feel that, look, we're in a superior position. They constitute themselves, and they've constituted themselves into another center of power, and that I think is unfortunate indeed. I think that what we need to do is to show by sheer military might first that we're capable of defending Nigerian territory against any form of extremism, and that the government is capable of protecting lives and property. But you see, sometimes when we want to engage in the ethnic, trying to distract people by, trying to play the religious card, play the ethnic card, it weakens even the ability of government itself to be able to do the things that it needs to do. What the government of the APC will do, and General Buhari has said this several times, is that Christians and Muslims and animists must come together to say, we are not going to accept a situation where any group of people, whether they are Boko Haram or whoever, threaten the territorial integrity of this country and threaten lives and property. General Buhari has said, for instance, that anybody who kills children on their beds and says Allahu Akbar doesn't understand the meaning of God is great. He's said so several times, and I think that is the case. I think that what this nation needs is a unifying force. What this nation needs is somebody who is able to say to the nation, we need to come together to confront this. Not a group of people who are saying, this is somebody or this is that person, and creating division rather than bringing people together to solve a national problem. I think that what we need now is a leader who people can entrust with the leadership, who has the understanding to take command of troops, and who can go ahead and do what needs to be done.
And President Jonathan is not that leader.
General Buhari is that leader.